Coming up on OTB, I thought basketball was over. Think again. In today's transfer portal, NIL crazy landscape that college athletics has become, the offseason is a big deal. Lots of moving parts just in the last month for Syracuse men's basketball. We'll break it all down for you coming up.
And spring means lacrosse season. And on the lacrosse field, both Syracuse teams had chances for massive ACC wins. With conference tournaments closer than they might appear, could the Orange handle their most recent tests over the weekend?
Plus, I just talked about important off seasons. How about Syracuse football? New head coach Fran Brown is putting together the building blocks for a successful season, but still there's a lot of unanswered questions. We'll have a special guest in studio to break down spring ball for the Orange and what's to expect with the weekend's spring game.
You talked about building blocks. Clemson softball didn't need building blocks to storm into Skytop Stadium and sweep Syracuse in an ugly manner last weekend. The Orange had a full handful of opportunities to bounce back. 5 games in 5 days? How did the Cuse handle the challenge? Scores, highlights, and a whole lot more coming. Welcome to On the Bench.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome into On the Bench. I'm Nick Luttrell, joined alongside my co-host, Andrew Selover.
My co-host,
It's our
Nick
last
Luttrell.
ride, Andrew. It's our last show. It's a
Let's do
special
it.
show. We're also honoring the best players, teams, and plays of the entire semester. It's been a ride.
It has. 45 minutes. Let's close it out in style.
Let's do it indeed. So we'll start with some more recent news from Syracuse athletics before we get to recapping this semester. Let's go to OTB's biggest headline of the week. Former Syracuse women's basketball guard Jaiswal has been selected in the WNBA draft. The Rochester native, 16th overall by the Las Vegas Aces in last night's WNBA draft. She becomes just the 6th player in SU history to be selected, and she's joining a pretty good team. The Aces are coming off back-to-back WNBA championships, and in her press conference for Vegas, she said, quote, "No matter what anyone says or what anyone might think, and specifically regarding my height, I'm here, and watch me work."
So, Nick, Syracuse basketball fans have had the pleasure of watching Jaiswal over the last couple of years. They probably haven't had as much joy over the last month watching Syracuse basketball deal with the transfer portal.
Yeah.
To break all that down, we've got a fun little timeline to break down over the last month since Syracuse lost their last game of the season to NC State. And we start with Benny Williams. Not a huge surprise there. He was already off the team. So that probably the least surprising move to join the transfer portal. But right after him, Justin Taylor. Another not huge surprise. Taylor started most games but only played about 20 minutes, 5 points per game. Didn't seem adored here in CNY, so he's headed out the door as well.
So both of those players, not really surprises, but a guy who was a surprise, that's Quadir Copeland, a guy who was one of the best players off the bench for the Syracuse Orange this season, not just off the bench for Syracuse, but off the bench in the ACC. Following Quadir Copeland was Peter Carey, a sophomore center. So he saw limited action this season for the Orange. 6'11", the guy's tall, but he can't do much inside, so there's a reason why he transferred. Copeland and Carey out the door for the Orange.
So that's 4 players already in about a week and a half. And while that was going on, there were also coaching moves to be had. For about a week, it was rumored that Jerry McNamara was going to go find himself a head coaching job. Yep. And yes, he did. Right down the road, joining Siena. He'll try to turn around a 4-28 Saints team next year. That said, 4 players, 1 coach already out in the first week and a half of the transfer portal and coaching carousel. Yeah,
we're to the end of March. Let's go to April now, and maybe the biggest gut punch of the offseason for the Orange. Malik Brown entering the transfer portal on April 1st. No April Fool's Day joke as many thought it might be. Brown started most of the games down the stretch for the Orange. He'll be a really big loss for the Orange.
Yeah, defensively especially. And we mentioned that the transfer portal and the coaching carousel taketh, but it also giveth back.
That's right.
And for the first time, it did that on April 2nd with Eddie Lampkin joining Syracuse. The center, 6'11", 265 pounds, a lot of size, a lot of beef down low, joining Syracuse. He averaged over 11 points a game, almost 7 rebounds per game. That's a big one for Syracuse, the first addition on the floor for next year.
So out goes Brown, in comes Lampin, out goes Jerry McNamara, in comes this guy, Dan Engelstad, as the next assistant head coach for the Orange. Still not officially confirmed by the university, we should say, but Engelstad has been the Mount St. Mary's head coach for the past 6 seasons. Important to note, just like Autry, he's got heavy ties to the DMV area. That's really going to help Syracuse recruit in the DMV area going forward for this season.
And they're going to need to recruit because they proceeded to lose a couple more players. This one, not a huge surprise. Munir Hima enters the transfer portal on April 11th. He had already celebrated senior day, didn't play much this year, so that one not a shocker. And the next one probably not a shocker, but one that Syracuse fans were dreading the day of. The leading scorer, Judah Mintz, officially declares for the NBA draft that same evening. Mintz led Syracuse second in the ACC in scoring this season. He tested the waters last year. This year, full go. Signed with an agent. He's trying to play at the next level.
Full go for sure for Judah Mintz. Definitely will be missed. So we're caught up now to this past weekend where we had a lot more action. We found out where some of the Orange departures were headed, and it started on Sunday with Peter Carey following GMAC heading to Siena. So Carey following GMAC, and then the same day, probably the most long-awaited commitment of the season, Benny Williams announced he'd head to UCF to join Johnny Dawkinson's team. As I mentioned earlier with Engelstad about Autry, can coach well in the DMV. Dawkins is a guy from the DMV connection, so it makes sense why Benny Williams would head that direction. And then yesterday, Justin Taylor announced he'd be transferring to JMU. Another one that makes sense for the Orange, makes sense for this guy. Taylor, someone who was from that area where JMU is. His mom actually played for the Dukes, so all three of them out the door. But you look at some of the production lost. Judah Mintz, Quadir Copeland, Malik Brown, big losses for the Orange, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, if my math works out right, that's already 40 points just in those 3 guys. We've talked about a lot more than 3 guys. And when you look at the freshman recruiting class from 2 years ago, that was the one that everybody thought was Jim Boeheim's last big one. And he had 6 guys. Well, that's down to 1. Chris Bell, the only remaining member of that 6-man class left for Syracuse. And the Orange desperately needing more players because right now it's Eddie Lampkin against a lot of players out the door. And just yesterday, they got that. Jair Davis coming over from Delaware, scored almost 20 points a game this year for the Blue Hens, a CAA stud. And so you look at the talent that's now coming in. You need a little more, but finally you have 2 players to put up there, and that's a lot of points coming in from a Colorado team that made the tournament and a Delaware team with Davis. Yeah, Lampkin, really exciting. Davis, as you mentioned, a star from Delaware, and you might look at Delaware and think, yeah, it's not the best college basketball program, but he's a guy who's got size, he's got athleticism, he's got star potential for this team that can probably start with the Orange for next season or at least come from off the bench. Yeah, you're looking at 6'11" and 6'7" right there. You toss in Donnie Freeman to the equation. Syracuse has a whole lot more coming and a lot of new blood for next year. And certainly a lot of excitement, a lot to look forward to next season for the Orange, and a lot to look forward for the rest of our show. We'll talk men's lacrosse and women's lacrosse on the other side of the break here on the Bench. Don't miss it. OTB returns in a bit.
Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
OTB rolling on. We're back at the desk. Nick Luttrell alongside, again, my lovely co-host, Andrew.
Boy, you're being real nice to me to start this show.
It's our last time, man. I got to be nice to you. Got to hand out all the compliments. We're going to talk about a lot heading into the rest of this show, but we're not going to talk about lacrosse. And Andrew, if you had to choose one, the men's lacrosse team or the women's lacrosse team. Both have been really good this season. Which one has impressed you the most?
I think the women's lacrosse team, because of the talent that they lost last year, what the coaching staff has done to put back a championship caliber team, really impressive. Both sides, though, coaching staffs, well done.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's certainly been a great season for both Coach Trainers and Coach Gates' squad. And for the men's team, they were in Chapel Hill this weekend. And if there was one big storyline heading into this one, you see it behind me, it's win and in. With a victory against unranked UNC, SU would for sure earn a spot in the ACC tournament and likely also secure a position in the NCAA tournament. You can bet it'd be a close one in this one between the Orange and the Tar Heels, but could the Orange get it done? Well, let's head south to answer that question. The Tar Heels hosting the Orange at Dorrance Field, a place Syracuse, they haven't had much success in recent years. You got to look back to 2019, the last time that Syracuse got the win in Chapel Hill. And early on in this one, it wasn't looking too good for the Cuse. Owen Duffy finished the day with a hat trick and a couple of assists for a Tar Heels offense that was torching the Orange early on. And then later on in the first quarter, Dominique Petramala cushioning the Tar Heel lead. A 3-0 run to start for UNC midway through the first quarter. But here we go. It's SU's turn to have a run of their own. You saw Billy Twan, nice diving goal for the Orange. And then later, John Mullen, the face-off specialist freshman, just his second goal of the season. All of a sudden, a red-hot start turned ice cold for the UNC offense with the SU defense locking in. Game still tied at 3 in the first. And look at this. It's Christian Mule giving Syracuse its first lead of the game. And on the other end, you got to give a lot of credit to this guy. Will Mark, 9 saves on the day, 13 saves, 9 goals, 60% save rate. And his offense, they followed suit. Joey Spallina, big-time goal. Q's now up 7-3 in the second quarter. And, before halftime, the Tar Heels, they get their goal. Cut the deficit down to just 3. But to start the second half, the Orange, they're going to get another goal of their own. Spallina to Finn Thompson. Syracuse up 10-4 in the third quarter. A 6-goal lead, just like the lead against Cornell. Again, deja vu moments for the Orange. Oh no, as that precious lead would crumble as the game went on. Logan McGovern, nice goal right there for the Tar Heels, right under the legs of Will Mark. Cuts the deficit to 1 for UNC. Last chance for the Tar Heels, but Will Mark says, oh no, not today. Steps up big when it matters most. Syracuse fans can breathe a sigh of relief. The last thing the Orange wanted was an overtime game, and they barely avoided that with a 10-9 win over North Carolina. You saw him celebrating on your screen a second ago, but how about the performance of Will Mark? Not just his performance on Saturday, but you look over the course of Mark's career, and as far as saves go, he's up there among the best, Andrew.
Game after game, he shows up. Will Mark has been the savior for the Syracuse team game in and game out. And while Will Mark has continued to add bricks to the wall, he's building in cage to stop offenses. Over on the women's side, Syracuse has turned into a team ready to bulldoze through any wall put in their way. Headed into this weekend, the Orange had won 8 straight, and they sat pretty atop the ACC, a perfect 7-0. Only 2 ACC games, only 2 regular season games left, and the next wall to topple for Cuse. Well, that was a first ever trip to Clemson. Yep. The Tigers turned some heads a year ago in the first year as a program, but this season, more of a challenge. Let's check out the highlights between Syracuse and unranked Clemson. The Orange sitting pretty at number 2 in the country. I'll give you a hint. Know the name Olivia Adamson and know it early. Took 5 minutes to get the scoring started in this game, but then who was it? It was Adamson for Syracuse. Clemson would try and battle back on its home turf. The Tigers had Claire Boxty to find the first goal of the game for Clemson, but don't get used to that. Clemson wouldn't score a whole lot early, and let's go back to the Olivia Adamson well. Scored 3 goals in the first quarter, scored her 100th goal of her 2.5-year career so far with the Cuse. Adamson got the party started, and then the Emmas, well, they would get the party moving for Syracuse. Let's go to Emma Ward, put them in the rocker and rock them to sleep. Emma Ward scores for Syracuse on an 8-0 run, and then Emma Tyrell would top that one on the other side. Syracuse was cruising, up 9-1. Clemson would get a little momentum headed into the locker room, but still, Syracuse had all the scoring you could ask for in that first half. A 10-3 advantage halfway home down in Clemson, South Carolina. Out of the break, the Tigers score the first goal of the second half. They're trying to put a little run together, cut into that lead, but Syracuse would say, I don't think so. the Orange would open it all the way up to a 10-goal advantage. And heading into the weekend, the question was, Syracuse could win, and so could Boston College. And then this week's game would decide the ACC regular season championship, but could the Eagles equalize? Let's check it out.
The game winner for Virginia, 13-12 in overtime.
So it's Virginia that takes down Boston College, and that seals the first ever regular season ACC title for Syracuse after a 13-12 Cavaliers win to help the Orange out. And to break down more of the latest on Syracuse women's lacrosse, I'm joined in studio by Syracuse women's lacrosse beat reporter Rahill Jaiswal. Rahill, great to be with you as always. An exciting time for Syracuse women's lacrosse. What does this outright ACC regular season title mean for the program?
Yeah, Andrew, this is a really symbolic moment because ever since joining the ACC back in 2013, Syracuse has they've been up there. You know, they've been competing for the national championships, but they haven't won one yet. They've only won one ACC tournament, and as you talked about, first ever ACC outright regular season title. So it's a really symbolic moment because they finally got some hardware they can throw in the back. And, you know, obviously it's not the only hardware they want to throw. Still looking for that national championship, but a really huge moment overall, and definitely a great moment for this program.
Building steps on the way to a possible national championship. Not only do you get some hardware, you also get the #1 seed in the ACC tournament. How big is that? We just saw a possible bracket as of now. How important is that seeding for Syracuse?
Yeah, it's huge, and the main reason is now you've got Notre Dame and Boston College, the 2 and 3 seed, on the other side of the bracket, which means you wouldn't have to play them until the final. Now, a lot of different scenarios are still possible because there's still one more game to go, but as of now, Syracuse has to love where they're sitting because they can avoid those teams until the final. Now, you can't overlook Virginia and North Carolina because those are two very good teams. Virginia played a really tough game against Syracuse, and North Carolina is always North Carolina, even when they're having a down year. But Syracuse definitely more favored in those matchups, particularly because Notre Dame and Boston College have a much stronger defense than Virginia if they were to meet in the semifinals. Virginia gives up around 12 goals a game. Boston College under 10 goals a game.
So what I'm hearing, Rahill, is a little bit easier, but you get to the semifinals in the ACC, you got a tough challenge no matter
Definitely, no matter who they play, but definitely an easier road.
All right, well, Syracuse closes out the regular season this Thursday at Boston College. That's a 5 o'clock game. Rahill will have updates. We'll have a Cuse Countdown episode to preview it and an Orange Press Pass to recap it. A whole lot to come on that regular season finale, Rahill, and a lot to look forward to for Syracuse women's lacrosse. When we come back, we've got a lot to look forward to on the bench. Syracuse football, spring football. It's back with Fran Brown, and Nick Luttrell has a special guest to break it all down. Stick with us on the bench.
Let's go see your room.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
Welcome back here on the bench. Andrew Selover, Nick Luttrell. I feel like I got to give you a compliment now. The ever awesome Nick Luttrell with me here on the bench. Nick, we're in the studio right now. You know where I was earlier today?
On the golf course.
I was on the golf course. That's because it's springtime.
Knew it.
And with springtime comes Syracuse football. It also means more recruits as the transfer portal opened up earlier this week for Syracuse football. Clarence Lewis has announced he's transferring in from Notre Dame to Syracuse with 1 year of eligibility remaining. That coming just this morning. The Notre Dame cornerback diminished in playing time from junior to senior year with the Irish. Started 2 games, played in every game last year, 1 pick, 9 tackles, more depth in the secondary for the Cuse.
Absolutely. And Andrew, I'll be honest, I'm a little old school, so I don't love it when guys enter the transfer portal kind of late in the spring as far as spring practices and spring games. But no doubt, Lewis, I think, is going to be a good player for this Orange team. A guy who's from New Jersey, got that New Jersey connection with Fran Brown, and so I think he could be good. I don't know if he'll start, but he could definitely be a backup. Like you said, add depth to that secondary.
He's not the only fresh face around town for the Orange. Let's take a look at what Syracuse football has been doing as of late. Not only a new head coach, Fran Brown for Dino Babers, plenty of recruits and transfers, most notably Kyle McCord, creating a lot of buzz for the Cuse.
It's still shocking just to hear that Kyle McCord is a quarterback for Syracuse. I mean, you tell me that a year ago, and no chance I'm believing you on that. McCord going to do great things, I think, for Syracuse. I think, what does he have? 1 year of eligibility left, maybe 2, just 1. So I think McCord's going to do well. All of these transfers are going to be special. They're going to be really fun to watch, especially at the spring game on Saturday.
Safe to say, Nick, that New is Syracuse football's middle name right now. And speaking of new, we've got a new guest joining the show to break down the latest for Fran Brown's group. Nick, take it away with our very special guest.
All right, Andrew, thanks so much. We've got a special guest indeed. Syracuse.com's Emily Leiker. Emily, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You've been covering the Syracuse football team for the past few seasons. You've seen head coach Dino Babers go in and out of this program, not into this program, but coaching this program and go out, and now in comes new head coach Fran Brown. You've watched a lot of practices. You've said you've been to every spring practice this spring. What do you feel like you've noticed are some of the differences between a Dino Babers practice and a Fran Brown practice?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things was right away there was kind of like a tangible buzz around practice and just this intensity that you could notice right off the bat. And, a lot of that has been helped by the fact that Fran Brown is very vocal during practice. He's a loud guy. And then they also have him on a loudspeaker. So you're not just hearing his voice, you're hearing it amplified throughout the speaker system in the Ensley facility and the practice area. So there's just been so much energy around practice, and it's not just been that we can see and feel that energy when we go in, but when you talk to the guys, they talk about how much more energetic and kind of frenetic and high-paced and high-tempo this all has been. I mean, there's hardly any breaks at practice, which is certainly a difference from the Dino era. Dino would often stand to the side and was pretty hands-off during practice. As I just said, Fran's really in it and really loud. So it's just been a lot more energetic and just really fun to kind of see this team acclimate under Fran Brown this spring.
And you mentioned talking to some of the players. You've also been able to talk to more coaches this season. Last year, in the past few seasons, you just talked to head coach Dino Babers. Now us as the media are getting to talk to some of the coordinators and wide receivers coaches and stuff like that. Has there been anybody that's been the most fun to talk to so far?
Oh, this might be a little bit of recency bias, but Ross Douglas, the wide receivers coach and pass game coordinator, he talked to us last week, and, he comes from the Patriots and working under Bill Belichick, and so obviously the question there is, well, what's it like working under Bill Belichick? And he had some great stories. I asked him, he made the switch from being a defensive analyst into a wide receivers coach, which obviously switching sides of the ball is a big deal, especially at the NFL level, and his first part of the story as he told it was he was like, well, I'm holding a burrito in my hand as I walked past Bill, and then he called me into his office. And so he was just a great storyteller. But, really all the guys, it's just been great to hear from because, as a journalist, the more voices you talk to, the better stories you can tell and the better picture you get of things.
Yeah, and stories are just so important to what we do as a media, especially to you writing for Syracuse.com. So coming up on Saturday is the spring game for Syracuse football. Obviously, a lot of new players on this year's squad with the transfer portal, with a good freshman class coming in. Is there a certain position group that you think fan needs to be looking out for Saturday's game?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's necessarily one for sure that you need to look for. I think the offensive line is always a kind of storyline with this team. And one thing we have heard is that they are still shaking out that position group. Everyone's moving around a lot and switching okay, well, maybe he's playing right tackle today, but he's at left guard tomorrow. He's also taking snaps at center. And so there's been a lot of movement there. So that's definitely one. I think the most intriguing one, and the one I'm assuming most fans will have an eye on, is that backup QB competition. I mean, we all know Kyle McCord's the guy at number one, but Carlos Wilson and Braden Davis, I think, have been pretty even through spring ball, and so it'll be interesting to see if either one of them can establish an edge kind of in a more game-like scenario.
Definitely should be fun on Saturday for that spring game. And there's definitely a new buzz around campus, around maybe even the nation with the Syracuse football team because of what Fran Brown has done. Some people are even telling me, and listen to this, Emily, college football playoff team, and I think that's maybe a little bit too much. What is your thoughts? Like, are you buying into that hype?
You know, I think for 2024, it's probably a little early for that,
Yeah.
even with the expanded playoff. You know, there's going to be more teams that are in it this year. But certainly, like, everything we've heard about how Fran has turned around this program and the changes he's implemented point towards a team and a program that wants to win championships. And that has been a word that's been thrown around a lot. I don't think we will see a playoff appearance this year, but that doesn't mean that next year or a couple of years down the line it's out of the question.
That's right. Maybe so. I guess we'll have to see in the coming season for Syracuse football. So the Syracuse football team, they're still months away from the start of its regular season, but a team that is in their thick of their season, that's Syracuse softball. When we return on the bench, we'll break down the busy past week it's been for head coach Shannon Depking and company. OTV rolls on after this.
That hard.
My big man fingers are having a problem with these little tiny buttons.
Whoa, watch it there. Your blood pressure's gonna go through the roof.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to learn how to get it down. Instead, it keeps going up.
High blood pressure can increase the risk for heart attack or stroke. Learn how to keep yours at a healthy range.
Ever hear a voice command? Just say text barbershop to 97779.
That's not what I said.
Just give me that. Now my blood pressure's up.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Welcome back here to Citrus TV. Andrew Selover, Nick Luttrell. Let's keep the spring theme going, Nick,
Yes.
and that means we got to get to the Diamond and Syracuse softball. No baseball team here,
No
just a
baseball team,
softball
but
team.
softball, that's right,
And so
yeah.
we got to give them some coverage here.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit of a challenge. Syracuse got swept against Clemson, so trying to bounce back. And the first challenge of the week, a home doubleheader for Syracuse against Colgate. And you would think that the Raiders would bring power, and you'd definitely think power was involved when the screen says swinging for the fences.
Yeah.
But, Nick, there was no power involved.
Not
7
yet.
total runs across the doubleheader. Nonetheless, the Orange escaped with 2 victories. No surprise, 5 straight pitchers duels in this matchup between Syracuse and Colgate. The Orange now 8-4 all-time, controlling CNY. Not a hotbed for lacrosse, but still Syracuse is controlling the area. Not much offense, but 2 wins for Syracuse in the midweek and keep the non-conference tests rolling right through. Syracuse hit the road for a weekend series against Seton Hall. A swashbuckling series is right. The first matchup between these two squads in over a decade, and let's check out if the Bats got going down in New Jersey. Highlights between Syracuse and Seton Hall. We kick things off with Game 1, and you bet the Bats would get going for the Pirates and the Orange. How about that field as we get a look here at the first pitch of the game? And just in the second inning, hope the broadcasters got their voices warmed up because Aaron Howard would have hit one over the fence, give the Pirates the lead. Boy, Seton Hall had things rolling until Layla Morales-Alves doubled in 2 runs for Syracuse. The Orange would cut into that Pirates lead. And then we head to the top of the 5th. It was Madeline Lopez's day as she just kept one fair down the right field line. She would keep adding on for Syracuse. That made it just a 5-3 game. And then Syracuse, well, they would give up more runs. You don't have to hit it hard as long as you reach first base safely. 8-4 Seton Hall, but the Orange would come all the way back with a big-time late flurry. Vanessa Flores brings in 2 runs, and Syracuse comes all the way back against Seton Hall, and they steal the first one. Where was that offense against Colgate?
12-9?
I know.
If I do my math right, carry the 21 combined runs, that's right?
Yeah, we had 7 in 2 games on Tuesday.
That's crazy. Quite the comeback win for the Orange. Like you said, down 8-4 entering the 7th, rattling off 8 in a row. So the Orange ending game 1 on fire offensively. How would they start game 2? Yeah, picking up right where they left off on the first pitch of the game. Angel Hasso torches that one to give herself a double. And Hasso, she set the standard for a wild first inning. Taylor Posner grounds out later to get Hasso home. The Orange put up another in the top of the first to go up 2-0. But yeah, that lead wouldn't last. The first batter in the bottom of the inning, just enough to get over the fence. And a few pitches later, yeah, over the fence again. Back-to-back solo home runs for the Pirates. Tie ball game, head to the second. The Orange offense, they weren't done. This time it's Peyton Shimmer who gets the RBI double. The center fielder's got butterfingers. SU takes a 4-2 lead. Final frame, last chance for Seton Hall. Lines it straight out to Mackenzie Foster at second base. That would do it. An early offensive push is enough as Syracuse takes game 2 5-3. Andrew, am I smelling a sweep? For Syracuse softball?
I think you might be. I'll tell you what you're definitely not smelling. That's runs. 30 in the first 2 games. And we got to show you the batting cages because there wasn't going to be a whole lot of offense in game number 3. Aaron Howard, a single in the bottom of the second. Usually when we show you base hits, that's RBI base hits. We don't have many RBI base hits.
Yeah.
So we're going to show you the strikeout to leave one stranded here in the second inning. And then Syracuse would try and keep them off the board, but that's not going to work out as Caroline Hobbs gets the single right back up the middle. Pitcher's duel, you need runs where you can get them. That's one for Seton Hall. That's a big one. Taylor Hill pops up. That ends the inning. Beautiful play down the left field line. But the rain came, and that would end Syracuse's chances. A little foreshadowing with the rain. Beautiful play in left field as that could have tied the game. And the Orange just couldn't find the bats in game 3. They used up all the power in the first 2 games against Seton Hall. So Syracuse goes 2 for 3 in the non-con, but now it's time to shift focus back to the ACC. The Orange entered the season hoping to snap an 11-year NCAA streak of missing the tournament, but Syracuse has to worry about making the ACC tournament at this point. Syracuse is 4-11 in the conference. The top 10 teams make the conference tournament, and Syracuse is 1 spot outside of the field right now. So Cuse 3 more ACC series left this season. Going to try and need to hop the Louisville Cardinals to get up into the ACC tournament field. And speaking of hopping, we're going to jump right along to another break here on OTB. We've got 3 more segments left. Teams of the semester, players of the semester, and plays of the semester, all coming up on OTB.
Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to.
On the bench, on the move over here at the wall, Nick Luttrell, Andrew Selover. Andrew, we're talking teams of the semester now, and you know the top 3 we're about to discuss. The people at home might be able to guess those top 3, but out of those 3, what team really stood out to you this semester?
How about I'll go with Syracuse women's basketball because they made the NCAA tournament already.
Women's basketball was really good. Women's field hockey was also really good. They didn't make it in our top 3, but who did? We start with our first team of the semester. Coming in at number 3, we've got Syracuse women's lacrosse. Now, yes, still hopefully a lot of season left to play for this team, but as far as right now, we've got them slotted at number 3. This is a squad that was just about as good as any team in the country coming into the season. Shaky starts with losses to Northwestern and Maryland. Had fans worried, but hey, those early season struggles, they are no more, as the Orange have rattled off 9 wins in a row to give them their first outright ACC regular season title in program history. No matter what happens Thursday against Boston College, this team is battle-tested, and they're ready for what I think can be a deep run in the NCAA tournament.
Nick, let's keep the lacrosse theme going. I'm going to be a big fan of lacrosse over the next couple of segments here. Syracuse men's lacrosse, second team of the semester. What Gary Gait has done to rebuild in the transfer portal. The Orange have gotten some big-time ranked wins against Duke, Johns, 3 of the 4 in overtime. Facing Cone, Sam English for masterfully.
And these lacrosse teams no doubt deserve all the hype as teams of the semester, but it's tough because we don't know yet how their seasons will end. But a team we do know how their season ended, that's a team you mentioned. Syracuse women's basketball and head coach Felicia Leggett-Jack and company are the top team of the semester. The Orange tied program records in wins, conference wins, and ACC road wins. Picked to finish 9th in the ACC preseason poll, but man, they far exceeded those expectations. 3rd finish in the ACC. Pretty impressive from Syracuse women's basketball.
Yeah, we talk about Gary Gait rebuilding. We'll see how Felicia Leggett-Jack rebuilds, but you can't say enough about the job she's done in 2 years with their alma mater.
Absolutely. So we'll go from our top teams of the semester to our top players and performers of the semester. And we start with number 5 on our list, a guy whose squad didn't quite make the cut for our teams this semester, but I'd still call it a successful season. Judah Mintz of the men's basketball team coming in at number 5, the sophomore on his way to the NBA draft, and that's because of a great season for the Orange. Mintz averaged nearly 19 points a game, 3 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. At one point, he was even being talked about as the ACC Player of the Year. Didn't get that award, but no doubt a great season for Mintz.
Judah Mintz has been the star and the leading scorer for Syracuse men's basketball. How about the leading point getter for Syracuse men's lacrosse? Joey Spolina. I don't want to hear any hate for this guy. Can't show up in big games. Top in the country in assists, and all this guy does is set up his teammates. Joey Spolina was the #1 recruit a couple years ago for a reason. Look at those assist numbers. He's helping lead the charge as Syracuse men's lacrosse already punched its ticket to the ACC tournament.
Great player, Spolina, performer of the semester. Number 3, men's lacrosse to women's lacrosse, Emma Tyrell. She certainly lived up to the royalty that her last name is. The 5th year currently is top 10 in the ACC in goals, points, and shots per game, and maybe best of all for her team, she seems to be hitting her stride at just the right time. Andrew, Tyrell has been great this season.
So we got a lot of goal scorers. I want to go to some defense, and particularly in cage, Will Mark for Syracuse men's lacrosse, performer of the semester number 2. Boy, has he been good again this year. Almost 60% save rate. That's top 2 in the ACC. He's allowing just 10 goals per game. And I'll give you a little hint. Coming up in about 3 weeks, the PLL draft. Don't be surprised to hear Will Mark's name called at the next level.
Definitely would be exciting to see Will Mark get into the draft. And if you thought those players were good, there's really only one that deserves the distinguished award as our OTB top performer of the semester. It's Deasia Fair. Roll the tape on this one because Fair is a player I can just never get tired of watching her highlights. She plays with heart over size every time she steps onto the court. Fair averaged nearly 23 points a game this season and, of course, catapulted her way into 3rd on the all-time scoring list in women's basketball history. So Fair, our top performer of the semester. Lots of other great top performers here.
Right there.
How about the top plays from the semester? We're going to wait on that, though. We'll take one more break here on the Bench. Top plays, our final goodbyes, and your images of the week. Right around the corner on OTB.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream. That I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly. Just to come back in a new disguise and be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
As a great band, Semisonic once said, closing time here on the bench. Nick Luttrell alongside Andrew Selover. Maybe they didn't talk about on the bench in their song, but they said closing time. Andrew, we're about to get to our top plays from the semester. Quickly, any ones that stand out to you before we get to our top 10?
No, I can't spoil it. I already spoiled enough on this show.
All right. So we're going to waste no time. Andrew doesn't want to spoil it, so we'll get right in to our OTB top plays of the semester. We've got a lot of them, so you better buckle up, folks at home. Number 10 of our top plays, we start with Syracuse women's ice hockey, Darcy Johal. Oh my goodness, I don't know much about hockey, like I'll be honest with you, but I know when you try to push the puck forward, then pull it back, then whip it around the goalie and get it into the back of the net, I know that's pretty impressive stuff.
Let's do that hockey. That's what I know about hockey. Let's go to number 9, and Peyton Rowley has emerged again for Syracuse women's lacrosse this season. How about this goal? I really don't know how she got this away. This was already a play of the week. Now it's a play of the semester, diving down to her back, and she sneaks it into the far post.
I don't know how that's number 9. Like she's falling down and hitting a shot.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to argue.
Gotta have a whole lot better than those.
It's
somehow,
a great play.
Some way.
It's a great play. Another great play is top play number 8. Sam English misses, but Christian Muley behind the back beauty. I know we're going to see a lot of behind the back shots, behind the back goals in this one, but this is one of the best. Take another look at it. Christian Muley doesn't even need to turn around, whips it over his shoulder, sends it into the back of net against Utah.
Let's check out the UConn-Syracuse matchup. Nika Mule against Deasia Fair. Both teams heard in the WNBA draft last night, but Deasia Fair won that battle. How about the step back James Harden 3? What a way to go out to finish out her Syracuse career.
Dirty move from Deasia Fair. Obviously, the Orange didn't get a win in that, but Deasia Fair, she is going to be someone special that we watched for years in the WNBA. Top play number 6, going back to lacrosse. SU and Pitt at CNS High School. Megan Rode, underhand flick of the wrist, makes the goalkeeper look silly on that one. And this is just what's so great about this lacrosse team. Rode only 8 goals on the season, not really a star player, but look at this goal. Like I said, the goalie doesn't even know what to do here. Rode just flips it over her shoulder and somehow finds the back of the net.
Nick, I'm usually about the result, not the process. On play number 5, I'm about the process because Finn Thompson with a beauty of an assist to set up Tucker Kellogg. Check out the BTB assist again. And then the howitzer from Kellogg to find bottom right corner.
I said there was going to be a lot of behind-the-back goals. I forgot about the behind-the-back assist. A great one there from Finn Thompson. Top play number 4. A lot of lacrosse and for a lot of reasons. Emma Ward, another behind the back. Does she have like a mirror in those glasses where she can just see from behind her and then just flip it over her right shoulder and throw it into the goal?
360 vision. How
she
about
has
that?
to. She doesn't even turn around and look at the goal, and then she just slams her lacrosse stick down like she's the king of the world. That's awesome.
Hey, you want more BTB? I'll give you more behind the back.
Right.
Michael Leo late in the game against Hopkins. Shot clock expiring, and he does that. Yeah, put your head in your hands because that was unbelievable from Michael Leo. This was a 1-goal win. This could have been the difference maker right at the end of the shot clock. Leo, that one could have been number 1, but somehow we got 2 better.
Somehow we do. I love watching that video, seeing those guys stand up. The surrender cobra. They have no idea what just happened before their eyes. But we'll go to top play number 2, and I guess this one is better. Quadir Copeland, spin move on the ground, spin move in the air, finishes with the right hand off the glass against the Louisville Cardinals. Andrew, you said it a few weeks ago, a full 720 to make that crafty layup. I don't know how he isn't like dizzy after that.
Those are the plays that Syracuse fans are really going to miss next year from Quadir Copeland. I'll tell you one play that Cornell probably missed. The Big Red thought they caused a turnover, and Billy Dwan said, "How about them apples?" Between the legs, turned his back to cage and scored. The long pole defender has 6 goals on the season, and that one, by far the best of them, by far the best of the semester of play for a Syracuse team.
It's one thing to have those like behind the back like goals, but to do it like between the legs.
You want to reenact it?
And jumping like that, right?
Yeah.
Is that how you do it?
I'm not trying that.
Okay, well, I guess I'm a little more athletic than you. You're just a golfer, but.
Yeah.
With all due respect.
I thought you were going to be nice all show, and you lost the niceness at the
very
minute mark
end.
30.
It is our last show, Andrew,
It is.
and it's been a pleasure doing this show with you. It's been an honor of mine. I've been able to be in this station for the past few years, and to have you alongside me as my co-anchor for this year, it's been a privilege.
And it's your last show at Citrus TV, so thank you for everything you've done here at Citrus.
I do appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's been a part of my journey so far here. That's going to do it for our OTB show. We'll now end it with our images of the week.
Syracuse has had a week and a half to think about its implausible loss in Ithaca. The stakes are simple for Syracuse. Win and you're in. Behind the back feed, inside Dwan, a diving shot. Goes home, but a flag flies. The goal stands. Billy Dwan, yet again.
Joey Spallina, left side of the crease, he scores. Tic-tac-toe, Syracuse 7, North Carolina 3.
Syracuse passing around. Step down shot from Thompson, and he cranks it into the back of the net.
Back check by Sam Alexo clinches the 10-9.